Recap. So fitness, especially in HE103, is about supplementing your nutritional plan with exercise. So here are some things that I said last week. Here is a basal metabolic rate. This is basal, and then depending on your age range, and then whether you have been swimming in testosterone for the first half of your life or estrogen for the first half of your life. That may be what gender comes down to. Don't quote me on that. I'm not a psychologist. Then here is your calorie needs just to stay alive. But this number is not very helpful because we do more than just stay alive. We are out and about. We have to get things done. So we need a different number than just basal metabolic rate. For those of you who are above average physical fitness and you want to get even better, like you want to be shredded, you want to show off your muscles, well, okay, so then exercise absolutely must be part of it. And getting an expert beyond my own abilities, my own knowledge is important. I can't help you be better at your favorite sport, be better, grow more muscles at the gym than I have. So that's not my area of expertise. So you need to find experts. But I do know enough to tell you that if you're in it to show off how much muscles you have, what you need to do then is reduce the fat layer that's covering it and hiding your muscles from being admired by the general public or the particular person you wanted to show off in front of. So abs or being shredded is made in the kitchen. Go ahead and grow those muscles, but then in order for people to see it, you have to stop hiding it under the layer that's just under your skin. It's called subcutaneous fat, which means you need to reduce your fat layer. Okay, this is new for this semester. You can't outrun a bad diet. What does this mean? So there is this fallacy, especially among, let's say, New Year's resolution crowd. Thankfully, they're finally starting to thin out at my gym, so the machines are becoming available again. Anyway, one misunderstanding that people don't seem to get is that if they think I'll just work out and then I can eat anything I want outside of the gym, or after a brisk hard day on the field playing your favorite sport, the problem is that we don't burn off as many calories per hour as food puts in us, and especially food that you find these days. Maybe 1,000 years ago, it was hard to eat enough calories to replace the calories you were burning off in daily physical activity. But not here at Queens, New York, not now in 2025. No, the $20 at a gas station, you will easily overwhelm any calories you burned off at your favorite physical activity. There are many ways to calculate how many calories per hour you're burning off at your favorite physical activity. These links I just found simply by Googling, so you can do it yourself. And of course, anytime you search on the internet, you always have to double check the source. There's a lot of people out there only trying to attract your clicks so they can sell advertising space or harvest your personal data so they can sell it to third-party buyers. So, and then they'll just say anything whatever they think will get you to click on it. So you have to be careful that the source of the information is a source that you trust. Anyway, no matter what, well, now that I've said that, the trustworthy, the accurate websites that list actual calories per hour burn effort on your favorite activity, whether it's jogging or simply walking or riding a bicycle or just standing in a subway car. How long did you stand in that subway car on your way home from work? If it's an hour, then how many calories per hour are you burning just standing around? So you can count all that up, and something tells me that it's not going to burn off the calories you just ate from just one stereotypical American meal. I have to say the stereotypical because if I say a meal, then there's always somebody gonna say, "Oh, I eat, but not my meals." So okay, so you eat very healthy. Congratulations. I mean, like the average person. The average person in America, in the middle of the bell curve, who keeps telling themselves, "I really need to get control of my weight," but then year after year, they never do. That's kind of stereotypical American meal. So if you focus only on calories out, and then eat junk food every day and eat junk snacks every night and in the middle of the day too, then you will never reach your goals. Repeat of some last week's slides. Obesogenic means foods that cause obesity. Well, don't they all cause obesity then? If you eat too much of anything, won't it make you more obese? That's true, but some things do it easier or faster than others, right? So these are the obesogenic drugs. The problem is that foods, but the problem is that obesogenic foods are way tastier, and in the short term makes us feel better and satisfies our cravings, not our hunger, but our cravings, and in many cases are cheaper. So people who are stuck between a rock and a hard place in reality, and they have to choose carefully about what food they spend their money on, end up using it up on obesogenic foods instead of something healthy. There was an old joke that you can tell which people in the tour group were Americans because they were the fat ones. Well, that joke is no longer true. Tour groups now are full of obese people from all over the world, as modernized junk food is now readily available. The world economy has shrunk the world, brought everybody closer together, at least when it comes to junk food. Advertising is everywhere, and this junk food is made, or the world economy has made junk food readily available and cheaper, so people all over the world are tempted into overeating these obesogenic foods. So health effects of obesity, and here's I have nothing to add from what I already said about these last week. So reviewed these, and these are still very true. I really can't get into the details here without opening up another lecture on medical problems. But that's not what this course is about. So, but I did say, okay, last week I said it was 10% about, and so here's where I got that number from. This link, National Institutes of Health. So if it's still active, you'll see that it's between 9 to 13%, and that makes more sense, right? It depends who you are, your genetics, the kind of work you do, etc. So there's many factors going in there, but the more weight you carry around, the increasing wear and tear you're putting on your joints. Arthritis is the irritation, inflammation of the joints. Okay. Increasing risk of diabetes. Diabetes is the big one here at Queens, New York. Well, it's the big one in New York, and it's the big one in America. Rates of diabetes is at pandemic levels. It's even reproductive health is affected too. So last week I mispronounced this. I meant to say psychosocial. I flipped these two slides. So last week I mispronounced this. I meant to say physiological, which is a fancy word for saying how it affects the body. The first word, psychosocial, is the psychological and the social factors. So who you hang out with, the culture you grew up in, and yes, your culture may be thousands of years old, and people in your ancestors 1,000 years ago did not suffer from obesity, but their portion sizes were much smaller, and their activities per day were much more vigorous. 1,000 years ago, there was a good chance your ancestors were farmers or hunters, so they were out and about, running, walking, sweating. So they were burning off the lesser food, the little bit of food that they were eating. And here you are, Queens, New York, 2025, and you're eating more than you're burning off, standing in a subway car, standing at your place of work, sitting in a classroom. So those are that was a social thing. So, and now, when you get out with your friends, what do you and your friends want to do? Do they want to go and run a mile? Of course not, right? They want to go to a bar. They want to stay in somebody's indoor house and order a pizza. And so the culture, the way we hang out is making it harder to control our weights. Lifestyle factors is among friends, and also when you're by yourselves. People tend to underestimate their daily activity level because I think this word is supposed to be over. Over. People tend to overestimate their daily activity. So if they were quizzed, like if they were asked to fill out a survey, and they would all say, "Oh yeah, I work out, I stay active," but then if you actually track them with a calorimeter, then it's actually much less than they think. And there's been a problem lately, not lately, but there's been a long known problem that just sitting around actually causes a problem here. There is, and I'll talk about that later. Okay, so physiological, which we come to the physiological, there are many factors contributing to obesity, and so it's not only behavior. There are like genetics, which contributes to body size. And then food companies are trying to manipulate your DNA, your instincts, to try to make you buy another bag. And then again, there's a portion size. So your grandparents lived to 100 years old, eating the same things you eat, you think, but their portion sizes were much smaller. And even though the food looks the same and maybe tastes very similar, your foods today are probably way much more loaded in sugars and salts than your grandparents were used to. Obesity is starting ever younger. For everything I just said, somebody out there, maybe yourself, knows an exception. And what that means is bell curve, right? Remember week 2, bell curve, the exceptions are here on the ends. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I believe you that you know somebody, or you know somebody who knows somebody for whom everything this semester is not true. It does not apply to them. But even though you know somebody who knows somebody who's over here, the question is, where are you? Where are you? Now, if you have been seen by your medical professional and they say you are here as well, okay, so you are there. But if you have not been counseled by a medical professional and you don't know, then you're likely to be, the chances are, 7 out of 10 chance that you are in here. There's a 19 out of 20 chance that you are in this range. I know that I'm in this block here, below average physical fitness. I'm still below average after a year and a half of going to the gym. Yeah, well, I was far behind in physical fitness for most of my life. So all that time in the gym, I was over here in physical fitness most of my life, and then I'm just working my way to the average. So sitting, I said that sitting has been seen to be a problem too. We do a lot of sitting, right? Then the pandemic made us sit even more, made it hard to get out and about. And then the society never really seemed to recover. Dose response means the more you sit, the more the thing happens. What thing? There have been a link between sitting and mortality, which is death. Mort is the prefix for the word death. So the rates of death. So as they've noticed, these researchers have noticed that as society sits more, like percentage of time sitting among the general population has been increasing, then mortality has been increasing. Does sitting literally cause the mortality, or is there like a million other reasons contributing to death rates? And that's kind of hard to say, because you can't do a double-blind study on mortality, because that's literally unethical, illegal, right? You can't take two groups of people and kill them both and then see who takes longer to die. That is just not possible in any point of view. So instead, they have to do these observational studies, but observational studies cannot prove cause. So there has been this observational dose-response relationship between sitting time and mortality. So they didn't prove that sitting causes death, or more sitting causes more death. Should you take it seriously? It's not the definitive proof. However, if there is an association, at the very least, this means that it's worth further study. Positive correlations mean it is worth further study. So when you read something that has positive correlations, then for you it means it's worth thinking about. It's worth spending time thinking about, looking around and thinking, is there something I can do? And so the more you spend not sitting, then the better effect you'll have on your overall health, and you may eventually increase your lifespan. Can sitting today or standing today affect when you will die 40 years in the future? Probably not. But sitting too much for your whole life probably has some significant effect. Okay, back to the lecture. It just came off a tangent. So I mentioned these weight categories last week, and then how do we know? I mean, each one is saying based upon what, right? If your weight is too high or too low, then what is just right? And I said that the best way to find out is a body fat percent calculation, but that has to be done in a clinic. You have to go somewhere. You have to talk to an expert. You have to pay the expert for their time. They have to take tests, and then you have to pay for the cost of the test. So it's expensive, it's time consuming, but more accurate. Well, is there a free version? There is a free version, but because it's free, then it's less accurate. So you get what you pay for. BMI is less accurate. How is it less accurate? Because it doesn't measure the body fat percent. It doesn't take into account how much muscle you have compared to how much fat you have. And it also doesn't take into account your heart, the quality or health of your heart or blood vessels, after all. So that's another factor that even body fat percent doesn't count into. So the real test, a real way to get the most accurate level evaluation of your health and physical fitness status is a full workup by a doctor. A full workup by a doctor, and then and if it's a primary care physician or a family physician or a general practitioner, then even they're not ready yet. What they're going to do is send you to a whole panel of experts, a cardiologist, a physiatrist. A physiatrist is like the doctor version of a physical therapy specialist, but it's a medical school version. Send you to a nutritionist, send you to this a psychologist. That is a full, complete workup. And then after hundreds of thousands of dollars, which hopefully which is likely not going to be covered by your health insurance, because you're doing this just out of curiosity, not out of medical need. So most health insurance programs will not approve it. There's no justification for it. And then after hundreds of thousands of dollars, you finally get a report that says, yeah, you're healthy. Okay, nobody has time for that. Nobody can afford that, only for their own curiosity, like how healthy am I? So the opposite end of that spectrum is the BMI, which is not only cheap, it's free. It's free. You already know how tall you are. You already know how much you weigh, but it means it is on the other extreme end of accuracy, meaning it's not that accurate. If you are, let me go back a few slides. If you're right here in the middle of the population average, you are the average American. I'm not saying average human in the world. I'm not saying an average German or average Indonesian. I'm saying you're an average American living in America. Then the BMI is probably a good, cheap, but good estimate of your physical fitness. You are, then these scales will probably work for you. These categories are probably accurate for you. If you are unusually in good shape or unusually in bad shape, then these are probably not that accurate for you. But if you are in that good of a shape, then you would be talking to a coach. How did you get in that good of a shape in the first place, right? You've been doing, not only have you been working out, but hopefully you've been doing research to make sure you're working out properly, and you probably have some expert like a coach guiding you. So they're going to tell you what state you are in. If you are that sick, that you are that if you are that out of shape, then that you have medical problems, like you have medical symptoms, then you're already being seen by a doctor, and you go by their assessments. But everybody in between, I'm not everybody, but most of us in between are going to be in here, and the BMI is close enough for the price. You get what you pay for. Okay. So muscle is more dense than fat, and that's like the first of the big complaints about the BMI, the most popular one. Okay. If you want to gain weight, you want to gain weight through muscle. For those of you who are severely underweight, like really underweight, really underweight, then first talk to your doctor, and then your doctor may say, your doctor may give you the okay to go ahead and put on a few pounds of fat. So, but then you want to gain that weight in quality carbohydrates, quality calories. It's not the green light to eat a hamburger every day just because you're underweight. You want to increase your intake of quality foods that have good vitamins, minerals, fiber, the good foods, so you can stay healthy. Now, from last week where I talked about diets, and then this week I'm talking about exercise, there is some people who take it too far, and they suffer. If it's a psychological problem, it's muscle dysmorphia. Dys means bad, morphia means shape, and this is a psychological problem. They look in the mirror and they don't see how they really are. Everybody who looks at them says you are in great shape, you look great, but they don't see it. They don't see the the physically fit person in the mirror, their mind somehow puts a filter, and then they see something really bad, and so it causes them to go to the extreme and start actually harming themselves. Last week I did a brief mention of anorexia and bulimia. I'm pretty sure that we have those slides got carried forward into this one. But muscle dysmorphia, there's another category where there are, and you've seen this in guys too, not just women, but guys too. They go to the gym and they work out too much. They spend too much time at the gym, and they're spending too much. So with most psychological problems, it becomes a disorder when it interferes with the basic responsibilities of life. So doing good in school, maintaining a job, living up to your half of the relationship, whatever, with your friends and family. And if these are suffering because of some kind of compulsion or obsession, then it's a disorder. And so if somebody goes to the gym or any other kind of athletic activity, but they do it to the suffering of people who are depending on them, they are failing at school, they are getting fired from their job, then that's a disorder. So this person not only needs to see a doctor because of the harm they're doing to their body, but they also need to see a psychiatrist to help work out what's causing them to think like this. The female version of exercising too much is the female athlete triad. So here are the three: menstrual dysfunction, low energy, decreased bone density. And what happens is, and bone density problem is osteoporosis. The problem is that when a woman works out too much, they get their body fat percentage too low, then they don't make estrogen and other female hormones like they're supposed to. The body fat plays a big role in the production of female hormones. And so, and it's the female hormones, I don't have the time to get into more detail than that. It's the female hormones that control menstruation, give her energy, and it's estrogen specifically that maintains bone density. In fact, women in menopause, which is the later half of life when estrogen levels drop dramatically, they actually suffer from osteoporosis. But for young women, what's happening is they're working out too much and their body fat percent is getting too low. What's the right amount of body fat percent for a woman? You really need to talk to a doctor. Me looking up the number on the internet and then telling you is not really going to help you. Anybody who is concerned enough to look up this number, something tells me that they really should be talking to a doctor. If you're even that close to that number to worry about it, you need to work it out. Okay, so this repeat of the previous slide for those of you getting deja vu. Yes, so you cannot outrun a bad diet. Don't try to use fit exercise as an excuse to eat junk food, and especially not as much junk food as you want. Now let's get into the fitness. Why you clicked on this lecture in the first place. Fitness. Great quote by Arnold Schwarzenegger. To avoid the temptation of imitating his accent, I'm just going to tell you to pause and read it for yourself, and you imitate his accent as much as you want. Okay, are you back? Let's continue. I love this phrase. The hardest thing to move in the gym is the front door, meaning that people make plans about getting into shape, especially after New Year's, but then what happened? Why don't they go to the gym? And a lot of people do, so much so that they crowd out the gym in January. Makes it hard for me to get to the machines I like. But then starting in February and then eventually by April, they they taper off, and then the gym is nice and empty again. What's going on? It is a failure of willpower. It's a failure of determination. Life gets in the way, and people stop going. Now, what about those who don't go to the gym? Okay, so let me modify the phrase to any kind of exercise at all. That is, the hardest thing to lift for exercising is your sneakers, to put them on. Like to actually get out of the house. Step away or roll away from the desk, turn off that computer game, put down that novel, put on your shoes and the rest of your clothing, street clothes, and get out there, even just for a walk. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Progress, so let me get that in there. Progress is more important than being perfect. And then maybe I should have put this in the disclaimer. By the way, I'm no physical fitness expert, so I'm not speaking to you as a certified or registered anything with this lecture about physical fitness. I'm just a casual journey person, just like yourself, and I'm just speaking from the experience of going from below average, trying to get to average as a human being. If you're trying to get better than average, I cannot help you, but you need to talk to experts like a coach. For those who can afford the time and the money to go to a gym, I have some advice from my experience. Many times I've joined a gym in the past, decades, and then signed the contract for a whole year, and then never went. So be on the lookout, read the fine print. And nowadays there are a lot of gyms who advertise like no contract memberships or quit anytime you like. The ones who say quit anytime you like, they often make it hard to quit. Like the gym I'm a member of, you cannot quit online. You have to show up in person. I think they're all like that. And so if you know of a gym where you're allowed to quit in person, okay, that's cool. That would be nice. That's good customer or consumer protection. But most gyms live, their financial model is this, that people sign up and they never show up. So why should they hurt their financial model by allowing people to quit? Make it easier for people to quit. Anyway, for someone who does go to the gym regularly, I love this because people pay the money to maintain my lifestyle by keeping the gym in business, but then they don't show up so that they don't use up the machines. However, from your point of view, you want to be careful. You want to look for a gym that makes it easy to cancel memberships, but it's still clean and well kept. It's convenient, it's cheap, it's someplace where it's easy to go to. If you drive, it's easy parking, convenient parking. If you use mass transit, it is right next to the bus stop. And of course, if it's walking distance, then walk, for crying out loud. Why drive to the gym if you're going there to exercise, right? Go walk to the gym. Why should you exercise, by the way? Because I just said that exercise will not make up for a bad diet. Then why go to the gym at all? Why not just focus only on the diet? Well, there are many other good reasons to exercise. A fit body has better working parts. That's basically what it comes down to. And I know most of you in the class are young, not in the best shape, but you're good. You feel fine. So what is this one talking about where body parts work better? Your body parts would work even better if you were in shape. As good as you feel now being out of shape, you would feel even better being in shape. Now, it may not feel so good going to the exercise place, whether it's sports or your favorite activity or the gym itself. It may not feel better going there, and it definitely doesn't feel better being there. But those times when you're not there and you've been regularly going exercising for years, continuously, regularly, then you feel better overall. And this is how it works. This is an oversimplified, but anyway, when you exercise, you increase oxygen demand in your body. That makes sense, right? Your body is using up sugar and oxygen, converting it into ATP, energy, and then waste products. So that's it's using up oxygen. That's why you breathe heavier when you're working out, when you're doing any kind of intense physical activity. Great. Whose job is it to get this oxygen from your lungs to the rest of your body? It's the arteries, or specifically the blood in your arteries. So as your muscles use up oxygen and the current supply of blood in your out of shape body is insufficient, now your body starts to complain. You feel tired, you feel muscle soreness, you feel the burn. Feeling the burn. Feeling the burn is a good feeling no matter what exercise you're doing. And the signal now is part of the body's feedback loop. This feeling of the burn, this feeling of exhaustion, is a signal being sent to the muscles to grow bigger and the arteries to grow bigger. Because your arteries are being told, yo, you are too small for this experience I'm feeling. I want you to grow bigger, wider. And your arteries, just like your coworker at work, will say, yeah, whatever, go away. IDGAF. I don't care what you say. Mind your own business. But then the next day you exercise again, you send the signal again. Yo, you're not big enough for my needs. You have to grow bigger. Again it says, yeah, whatever, stop bothering me. I'm busy watching TV. But after several days of this, finally the arteries slowly start to respond to the signals, the demand to expand capacity. Artery size, capacity for blood flow, changes very slowly over days, over weeks, over months, sometimes over years. So as you slowly, consistently keep up the increased exercise, this is your new normal. Your exercise level is now at the new normal. Finally, weeks later, months later, your arteries have expanded to meet the demand, and now your arteries are at the new normal, which means even when you're not exercising, your expanded arteries are providing better blood flow throughout your body. Have you seen bodybuilders with the gigantic cannon veins bulging out of their body? Same thing has happened to their arteries on the inside. So what happens like 6 hours later when the bodybuilder stops working out? Do you think those veins shrink back to tiny little coffee straw veins? No, they stay the same size. They're just not engorged with blood from the increased blood pressure from working out. But the veins are still the same size as they were earlier in the day. The arteries were still the same size as they were earlier in the day. So there's better blood flow, there's higher blood capacity all over the body. This, by aside, this is why athletes have a slower pulse rate at rest. I'm not talking about during exercise, but at rest, when they're not doing anything, when they're on the couch chilling out after a good day, a good productive day, and they're relaxing, their pulse rate is down in the 60s or maybe even in the 50s, like 60 beats per minute, where somebody who's completely out of shape just sitting will make their pulse go up to 90, 100 beats per minute. So the people whose heart rate is 100 beats per minute, even just sitting, means their heart is working extra hard, even just sitting. Meanwhile, a physically fit person who is just sitting, their heart is saying, everybody good? Everybody good? All right, I'm going to dial it back if nobody minds, and their heartbeat drops to 60 beats per minute, 56 beats per minute, like that. So this increased blood capacity is happening all around the body, even when not exercising, and the entire body is better for it, including the brain, especially the brain. So your blood flow to your brain has improved. Even though your brain is not the one exercising, the arteries to the brain improved capacity. Why? Because arteries increase capacity everywhere. There's no way to tell like a specific artery, you get bigger but everybody else stay the same size. No, arteries everywhere gets bigger. So the arteries to the brain gets bigger too. And so increased blood flow to the brain. What does that mean? Increased oxygen heads to the brain, and also the waste products of normal metabolism, normal living, get washed away better. So your brain gets cleaned and flushed clean faster, sooner, better. So the brain is working better. Everything is working better. This is why you should exercise. Not really to lose weight, but to make your whole body healthier. So as the brain works better, you have all of these improvements, and as you get all of these improvements, you have these final effects, ultimate effects. So this is why you should exercise. You want to get better grades? Exercise regularly. Okay, so have I convinced you to exercise? All right, so now how do you actually do it? Pause while you read this. Having a support group is good, but if you're like an introvert, don't force yourself to go out and meet and mingle. You know, there are ways to do this solo. You want to plan your exercise now. So find an activity that you like. Find an activity that is convenient. Convenient meaning within your time limits, within your financial ability. Find an activity that is appropriate for you. What does appropriate mean? I don't know. Use the word however you like. Just find an activity that is appropriate, that you would genuinely enjoy. I mean, don't let somebody else tell you what you like. Like, you have to actually like it, and it's convenient. Okay, and then start at the appropriate fitness level. If you are a total couch potato, you never exercised in your life, don't start training for the marathon. It's a little soon for that. Just start walking. How about that? That's what I mean. Appropriate for your current fitness level. And then start slow so you don't break anything. Plan ahead. Nobody finds time to exercise. People make time to exercise. They take exercise and move it up a few notches in their priority list. That's how you find time to exercise. That's how you make time to exercise. Nobody finds time to exercise. At any moment, every second is accounted for. It's easy to fill your days watching cat videos and play computer games. Nobody finds time to exercise. They have to plan it. They have to make time. They have to take things that are not important and push it down the priority list and move exercise higher above it. And then eventually, hopefully, it can be routine. It's part of the new you, the new normal, and it's something sustainable. Okay, now if you have any of these conditions, especially this condition, you want to talk to a doctor before you start an exercise plan. Make a plan for yourself, and then, sorry, do you hear these clicks? I'm playing with desk objects. Make a plan for yourself, and then show it to your doctor at your next appointment, just to get there okay. Your doctor is probably not an expert on exercise either. In my medical school, we never got a specific class on exercising, but your doctor would be an expert on these things. And so your doctor will look at the plan, and then compared to what the doctor knows about these things, will say if it's a good idea, if it's not, if there's a way to improve it. I like what you said about this thing, but maybe you should do this other thing differently. So your doctor can give you advice based upon your medical situation. At this point, you're probably muttering to yourself, all right, when are you actually going to get to the actual exercises? I'm not. I am not going to mention any specific exercise that you should do. You do you. I don't know you. Don't do what I do, because I'm me and you're not me. So find your own way. I am not going to endorse or recommend a specific exercise other than the gym, I guess, because the gym is nice and variable, and it fits most people's needs, and it's a great way for somebody who is absolutely clueless. Like if you cannot think of an activity that you like, that is affordable, that is convenient, then go join a gym. I happen to be a member of a gym that charges me $15 a month. Well, I guess inflation, one of these days it'll go to $20 a month, but that's again like less than $1 a day. How much do you spend on Starbucks, if you do, or Dunkin' Donuts? So it's very affordable to me. So for those of you who have absolutely no clue where to start, like they don't even know what kind of activity to do, all right, go join a gym, and then from there try the different machines. Get a brief introduction by the staff to like how to do the different things, and then as you find like one kind of machine works better for you than another, then you can start branching out from there. You can start thinking of like what outdoor activities are similar to this kind of exercise, so you can do that. I'm assuming that as you start your new journey, health journey, you're going to start looking into social media for advice, and why not? It's free. The advice on there is free, but remember, you get what you pay for. But anyway, when you do, be warned. I always skip videos with the titles of these words, because more times than not, I've noticed that they're just full of people trying to sell you something. Buy my book, buy my supplement, buy my powder, buy my nutrition bar, or whatever. They're just pushing, or buy my video series, or join my membership. They're always trying to sell you something when they have these words in it. You don't need to buy anything. Okay, depending on the activity you chose, it's going to be in one of these 5 categories. Cardiorespiratory, which is heart and lung. So that's this is what people mean when they say the cardio, which is like bicycle, jogging, etc. Muscle strength, okay, that's the weights. Muscular endurance, that's kind of like the jogging again. Flexibility is stretching and yoga. and then body composition, focusing exercise activities on trying to get fat and lean. Although that's more of, again, that's more of a diet thing. But any kind of exercise or activity you can think of, I'm expecting will fill into one of these categories, and it could even be like a combination, like endurance and cardio makes sense. Muscular strength and endurance together. Flexibility is a good idea no matter what you're doing. You would like to stretch before your activity. Otherwise, you're going to break something. You're going to pull a tendon, pull a ligament, rip a muscle if you try to do too much too soon when your muscles aren't even ready. Because you start out the day a little stiff. So you want to do some stretching. You don't want to do too much stretching because of various physiologic reasons, but a good amount. So what is a good amount? There you can talk to experts. So I'm not a stretching expert, so I don't feel comfortable enough to tell you exactly how to stretch. And then when I was doing research on the internet for like stretching advice, I finally decided I don't even know enough to know if one website is better than the other. So I've decided to leave it up to you guys. Go ahead and search your social media, your favorite social media influencers, see what they do. Avoid videos and websites that have these words, but otherwise search for stretching tutorials. Start slow. Don't do what the experts are doing at their level. Especially look for like beginner level things. Okay. The FIT principle. Before I mentioned the SMART objective, S-M-A-R-T. Remember what S-M-A-R-T stood for? Go look it up because that's a test question. Anyway, the S-M-A-R-T is how you know you have an objective and not a goal. Objectives are specific. Goals are vague. So the FIT principle is a kind of S-M-A-R-T. So depending on the exercise, you want to answer these 4 questions, and this is how you make a plan and lets you know if you're sticking to the plan or deviating from the plan. By the way, you're allowed to deviate. I'm just saying that you will know how much you're deviating from. So for example, let's take the FIT principle and apply it to cardiorespiratory. So the type is described like this way, and then the frequency is how many times a week you're going to do it. Intensity is is measured with cardio. It's measured in target heart rate. And then time is how long you're doing that activity for, like how many minutes at a time. If you've never done anything like this before, start at 1 minute. Start at 60 seconds and see how it goes. Pat yourself on the back, go home, having a feel-good moment saying that I started it today. You're not done today, but you started it today. And then the next time, try 5 minutes. Make sure you didn't break something, and then gradually, like over the weeks, increase it by like a minute at a time or 5 minutes at a time, increments like that. Okay, so what is this target heart rate I speak of? It's this. Males or females, so take this number, subtract your age, and that's the maximum heart rate. But we don't want to go for maximum. It's medically not a good idea to always push for the maximum. I'm not saying if you are young and healthy, that you'll have a heart attack, but you could like faint. So there is a chance that if you keep pushing to your maximum heart rate, you're going to end up in the emergency room. So try not to do that. Instead, go for your target heart rate, which is you take the maximum heart rate, this equation, and then you multiply by a percent. So between 70 and 90 is, 80 seems to be in the middle. So that's 80. So let's go with this here. Let me bring up a calculator. And I am male, 220 minus, how old am I? 58. Well, I'm almost 59. So that's my max. I never let my heart rate go to 160 in anything. That's actually, I'm a paramedic, and this is above a number which we call like a medical emergency. So I wouldn't do that. But you're not supposed to. And now what's my target heart rate? Times, and I'm going to go for 70% because 0.70, because I'm not in great shape. And I have some medical conditions too where I want to dial it down a bit here. So 112 is my target. So, and that's kind of what I do. I actually stay under 120 when I'm on the stair machine. So how did I get 120? So 220, right, minus 58 times, and then 0.8. 80% of that is, I stay around, I stay under 130. So this is why I do not, when I'm on the stair machine, on certain settings, my heart rate shoots past 130 and I have to turn the setting down. I don't feel bad. I don't feel like it's too much. I just know that it's above my target, so I don't want to go there. In fact, 220 minus 58. If I go for the 90%, times 0.9, yeah, this is not going to happen. It's too risky for me. So at 80% of my max is 130, and I make sure never to go past there. I stay around the 70, 75. So I stay in the 120s, and that's my target heart rate. What is it for you? Calculate it in the homework assignment. Show your work. All right, what about those of you who want to get the gains? You want to build up your muscle so you can impress your significant other. Okay, so the fit is answered in this way. Now these numbers again are for example purposes. I'm not saying these numbers should be for you. You get advice from your health primary care provider. What's a good way to start? Maybe your primary care provider will refer you to like a physical therapist who can tell you how to start. If you search for this information yourself, because information is free on the internet, beware that when you get something for free, you get what you pay for, and watch out that they're not trying to sell you something, that they're not trying to trick you into signing up for things. And then something else now about social media influencers. Sometimes they give you advice that's just downright harmful. They don't care. They don't care if somebody dies following their advice. They can just point to their disclaimer and say, hey, you should be talking to your doctor anyway. I told you to talk to your doctor. So if they give advice and it hurts somebody, then they don't care. They got their ad revenue. They got their sales. That's all they care about. But you have to watch out then. Okay, when you're exercising, never forget this phrase. Forget this phrase when you are beginning. Maybe when you are an expert, when you know more about these things than I do. Okay, maybe, and you have a coach, you have a trainer that you paid for. Fine, then do what they tell you. I take no responsibility for it. But until then, if you are a beginner like me, do not go by this phrase, Because how are you supposed to know if the pain is a good pain or not? If somebody says, don't worry, pain is just weakness leaving the body, some pain is that. Some pain is that you broke something. And if you keep pushing it, you may end up in the emergency room. How are you supposed to know the difference? Are you a doctor? Are you, and then if you are a doctor, what kind of doctor are you? So how are you supposed to know the difference? If you don't know the difference, then do not go for pain. There's a phrase in the gym called working to failure. And what that means is you're not able to push or pull that weight to full range of motion anymore, and then you give up. That's to failure, but that's not to pain. So until you know exactly what you're doing, pain means danger. Pain means danger to a beginner, and especially sharp pain. Now chances are really good that you broke something. So if you feel a sharp pain, stop immediately. In fact, call it a day. Like, don't work out anymore. Go home. Wash up and go home if you feel a sharp pain. If you're feeling a pain, then dial it back. And then try it with a lower weight or slower speed if you're doing cardio. Then if you don't feel it anymore, okay, maybe the danger is over. But if you still feel pain like the next day, absolutely call your doctor. Something happened. Now, what about muscle soreness? What about muscle soreness? Aren't you supposed to feel sore? Yeah. After a good workout, I am sore the next day. I'm not rushing to the emergency room. That's how muscles grow. So over time, I have learned to know the difference between being something breaking or something growing. So, okay, I feel mild muscle soreness the next day. I know I had a good workout. Everything is going according to plan, but definitely no sharp pain. Speaking of pain, there are some overuse injuries, and what happens is, especially on the cardio, especially in sports like tennis. Tennis is the famous one. Running. There's running too. So if you overuse a bone, especially a joint or a body part, then if you use it more, when you use a body part more than it's used to, then it will start sending signals to grow stronger, bigger, increase blood supply. So over the weeks, months, and years, you will get the gains. It will get stronger, it'll get bigger, the blood supply will improve, and so slowly you can increase the rate, the intensity over time. But if you do too much too soon, what you're going to cause is injury. And at the microscopic levels of injury, that's called inflammation. It's the response. When the body responds to microscopic levels of injury, that's called inflammation. And that's where the itis is. Anytime you see the letters ITIS after a body part name in medicine, it means there's inflammation. And inflammation is often because of microscopic levels of injury. So you're doing too much and then too soon, and the body is complaining. If it's happening at the bottom of your foot, that's the plantar fascia, the soles of the foot. And so people who like walk or jog too much, especially in poorly fitting shoes, but they're doing too much too soon, then they have plantar fasciitis. Anybody who's walked for work, maybe as a waiter or working behind the customer service desk, then or being the supply, like being in charge of the supply room, then or doing deliveries, that's plantar. And then you come home and your bottoms of your feet are hurting like hell, you probably have plantar fasciitis. The most common therapies for plantar fasciitis is well, the first advice that doctors always tell you is, take a load off your feet. Don't stress it so much. So it's the old joke of you go to the doctor and you say, "Doc, it hurts when I do that," and the doctor says, "Well, don't do that." But then in reality, that's not really an option, right? Because if you're doing this for work, the doctor's literally telling you don't do the thing you're paid to do at work, then that's not really an option. But unfortunately, that's what it comes down to. If you don't stop that, you're going to keep injuring it, you're going to keep inflaming it, and then what was an acute injury will turn into chronic injury, and then eventually you literally will break something. You'll rip it, tear it, break it. A stopgap measure, a temporary stopgap measure, is those things like warm soaks at night, or in the evening when you get home from work. Pain relievers like ibuprofen are literally just short term. They are not meant to be used long term. And then finally, if you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, the doctor may suggest like steroid injections and surgery, but that is like really unfortunate if you've reached that point. Shin splints are the shin is the front of your bottom half of your leg. Splints is this burning feeling that the muscles of your legs are burning from inadequate blood supply. It could be a sign of multiple different medical conditions. One of them is peripheral artery disease, and I'll mention that in Lecture 6, Chronic Diseases. It could be as simple as you're just out of shape, trying to walk too long, too hard, like people who are out of shape and then rushing through the airport to reach the gate so the plane doesn't leave without them, and then they feel this burning in their legs. That's shin splints. There could be other causes of it. Anyway, so the classic story is, the classic symptom is somebody is vigorously walking or running, and then the front of their legs get such a burning pain that they have to stop. But then after stopping for like 5 minutes, the pain finally goes away and they can resume what they were trying to do. So the most common reason why people get shin splints is peripheral artery disease. They're out of shape. The arteries to their legs are insufficient to supply the blood. The veins are insufficient to wash away the waste products, so the burning feeling builds up. The solution is to maintain a long-term physical fitness plan. That's it. Okay, runner's knee and then tennis elbow is similar. And tennis elbow is the joint is being used too much, and then there's inflammation. Tendons and ligaments are stressed, and eventually it hurts so much that the player has to stop. If they don't, then they'll start to it'll stay inflamed through the next day and the day after that, and they can barely do anything like ordinary everyday activity. They can't even do, and the solution is to just stop. That's really it. Just stop. You cannot. You're trying to do too much too soon. Pain relievers again are only temporary, but the pain is chronic. Just stop, and then take it and dial it back to a more reasonable training program. A kind of tennis elbow, runner's knee, that people feel in the wrist at work is called carpal tunnel syndrome. So what's a tunnel? Well, what's a carpal? Carpal is the wrist, and there's a tunnel. The tendons of the fingers go through a tunnel in the wrist to the muscles that power it in the arm. So the tendons slide in and out of that tunnel. And then the repetitive motion, see from the previous slide, it rubs those tendons chronically and eventually causes inflammation, and so that's carpal tendonitis or carpal tunnel syndrome, similar to runner's knee, tennis elbow. Okay, so you go to your doctor and say, "Doc, it hurts when I do this," and your doctor says, "Well, don't do that." The problem is, how did you get this way? Repetitive motion. People typing on on typewriters and data entry terminals, and those tendons were sliding back and forth 8 hours a day. They barely had time to go to the bathroom or go to lunch, and so they had repetitive stress, inflammation, and that's carpal tunnel. And now that's what they were hired for, and the doctor just told them, "We'll stop that." And they said, "I can't stop that. This is my job." Well, then they're put in this impossible situation. Either stop your job and stop this activity and get fired because that's why you're hired, or try to keep pushing through, but then you're just making this carpal tunnel worse. So if you cannot relieve the stress on those tendons, and you literally cannot stop the job, then the next thing is steroid injections, and then finally surgery. The problem with the wrist compared to the knee and elbow is this is a much smaller space, it's way more complicated, and it's about the function of the hand, which is so critical to quality of life. One accidental slip of the surgeon's scalpel may paralyze a finger, and it will virtually ruin this person's life. So surgery was really, surgeons tried as much as possible to avoid surgery, tried as much as possible to try any other option before surgery. Okay. Not only in exercise but in work, back injury is a real issue, especially people who lift heavy things, such as ambulance workers, because American patients are only getting heavier year after year. Obesity is an epidemic, and it's not going away anytime soon. It's only getting worse. So back injury is the number one career-ending injury for ambulance workers and nurses, because we have to lift patients. But otherwise, there are other jobs where people have to lift heavy things. And often the story is, I just bent down to pick up a pencil, and then it broke my back. So what was it about that pencil that caused such a horrible event? No, the pencil did not break this person's back. It's the lifetime of bad lifting that slowly wore away at the backbone, at the tiny muscles of the back, that finally did it. If you have ever heard of the term the straw that broke the camel's back, if you are in some kind of work type or your own activity type where you are lifting heavy things, it's the years and years of bad form, bad lifting, that will eventually break you, not the one big bad lift, usually. So how do you make sure you learn how to lift properly so that you don't cause this chronic long-term wear and tear on your back? And here's a couple of videos so you can watch this if you are interested. Okay, so ramp ups, start slow, ramp up slow, take weeks to weeks to months. Just to make it clear, to reach your target, your eventual targets of activity. Wear appropriate footwear. Don't judge footwear by the celebrity who is selling it. In fact, I purposely avoid sneakers that is advertised by celebrities, because I know then that a big chunk of that price is going straight to the celebrity's bank account and not going into the quality of the shoe. Instead, I would rather pay less for a good quality shoe. Also, I'm not trying to be a world-class athlete. I'm trying to go from below average to average athletic ability. So buying the best quality shoe is not important to me. Buying decent shoes that will not break my bank account is more important. Protective equipment depending on the activity, of course. So smart buying, emphasize on comfortable appropriateness. Beware sales pitches. For gyms, beware membership plans, but I already talked about that. You cannot target fat areas. That's no such thing. Your body does not target fat areas. When the signal goes out that we need, we don't have enough carbohydrates, we need to break down fats, you cannot choose which fats get broken down. The fats will be gradually removed all over your body at the same time. So any plan that tries to say, oh, we can remove fat from these problem areas, no, that's not going to happen. Fat is removed at the same percents all over your body simultaneously. Be wary of advertisements. Let's see. If you're going to buy something expensive, pay attention to the fine print. I like going to the gym instead of buying my own gym because, first of all, I can't afford my own equipment, but this gym has a wide variety of equipment, so I don't have to pay thousands of dollars to buy one piece of equipment. Well, hundreds of dollars. I don't have to pay hundreds of dollars for one piece of equipment and then do that one exercise only. I can go to the gym for $15 a month and then try a whole variety of equipment. All right. Nutrition. Okay, so before you go exercise, you don't want to eat a large meal just before you exercise, right? You're going to throw up. So try to eat a larger meal like breakfast 3 to 4 hours before, and then don't eat anything just before. Now, if you missed breakfast, okay, maybe you can have a snack an hour before. What you don't want to do is have a full stomach while you're exercising, because then you're going to throw up. You may even get muscle cramps. Stay hydrated. Don't be overhydrated, but stay hydrated. How do you know you're well hydrated and not overhydrated? Just drink when you're thirsty. How about that? Drink when you're thirsty. If you overhydrate, you may have something called hyponatremia, which means you've diluted the salt level too much in your body. Not that it would happen, not that it's a good chance of happening. There's a rare chance that if you dilute your salt levels too much, you could have a seizure and a heart attack. It's very, very rare though. You actually have to have an actual disease to get that low, but you don't want to get anywhere near this. Your salt levels need to stay about right. Okay. Beware of supplements, because they're often, when they promise high energy, they give you the energy with loads of caffeine and sugar. Of course, I have a cup of coffee every morning, but I don't have 4 cups of coffee in the morning. So you want to moderate that. I'm always trying to cut down on sugar itself. I try to get sugar naturally through carbohydrates and fruits and vegetables. So I mentioned overuse injuries. Trauma injuries is that thing you see on the news and on ambulance drama shows, like hit by a car, fall off a motorcycle. That's trauma. Get into a fight. These are like the acute or immediate effects of accidents or intentional injury. And then to reduce the risk of that, you want to wear protective equipment. Trauma can also be like if you rip a muscle because you try to do too much too soon. When the summer comes and you run out there, just be aware or be alert for heat emergencies. So there's 3 levels of heat emergency: heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke. Heat cramp, well, the word cramp, right? So when you or your friends start to feel these cramps, then just set them down, drink fluids and electrolytes, get him in the shade, or get him somewhere cool, and hopefully everything will be fine. But don't make them keep. Once the muscle cramps start happening, then stop the activity. Stop the activity. Heat exhaustion is 1 level above, and now when they start to feel faintness is heat exhaustion. Fatigue, dizziness, headaches, nausea. Okay, something's clearly wrong. They really should stop for the day. If it's it doesn't matter if this person is like an important member of your team and your team is about to win the championship. No, your friend is more important than the championship. If you don't make them stop for the day, they could end up in the emergency room. In fact, sometimes if these symptoms are really bad, maybe you should call 911 because something is looking really bad. After all, if by the time the ambulance comes or the first aid team comes, maybe the patient feels fine and refuses assistance, and then they're allowed to, and then nothing happens of it and everybody goes home. But if by the time the first aid team arrives and they are still looking really bad, okay, it's good that they were there because it's time to go to the emergency room. Heat stroke is now a life and death emergency. How do you know somebody is going to heat stroke instead of instead of cramps or exhaustion? Key here is that skin is dry, hot and dry, which doesn't make sense. If the skin is that hot, it should be wet from sweat. Why is this person not sweating? They ran out of water. Their body ran out of water. They cannot sweat. How does the body release heat? By sweating. So the body is too hot and they cannot sweat, so they're gaining even more heat. This person is in a vicious cycle. They are in a death cycle. They must go to the emergency room, and then the clincher is confusion. Now, not confusion as in, you're not sure what's going on, or you don't understand a puzzle. No, confusion is cannot answer their name, location, day of the week, and what is happening. So these are the 4 questions to assess mental status. What is your name? Where do you think you are? What day of the week is it? And what do you think is going on? If they cannot answer these questions clearly and immediately, call 911. Get them into a cool place, douse them with water, like dump a bottle of water on their head. It may be too late to make them drink anything, because here, if they're confused, the situation is they may choke on that water. It may cause them to vomit, and then they choke on the vomit, and then they inhale the vomit. This is a possible disaster happening. This is a life and death situation. Heat stroke is a life and death situation. You know what? Let me put that in red. So call 911. Dangerous to you for noise. So depending on your activity, it may be loud. I'm not saying flying a jet airplane or hanging around an airport is your favorite activity, but like what about rock concerts or playing with a chainsaw, or how about setting your is MP3 player old school? Am I showing my boomerness by saying MP3 player? Let's call it a stereo. And then, actually not your home stereo, I mean headphones. Can go up to 105 decibels. Riding in a motorcycle without a helmet. Without a helmet, 95. Even mowing the lawn is 90. So really, you want to avoid hearing loss, you really should be wearing earplugs even to mow the lawn. With physical activity, we have to think about accidents, and with accidents, my first thought is always the getting to a car accident. Don't text and drive, don't drink and drive, don't tailgate. So these should be common sense advice. Unfortunately, when you've been out there on the roads, you see that common sense is not so common. That's why I have a dashboard cam. That's why I have a dash cam. Because once you get into an accident, both sides will start lying to protect themselves legally. So the video shows all. When we talk about car accidents, then road rage is a very real thing. And for road rage, I just want to tell you to remember your main mission. What is your main mission? And I say your main mission is to get home safe to the people who are depending on you. That is your main mission. So does getting into a fight help that main mission or not? If somebody is threatening physical harm to the people who depend on you, okay, maybe a fight is justified. But if they're not, if they're only threatening your car, if they're only threatening your side view mirror or your windshield wiper, does defending your windshield wiper contribute to you achieving your main mission, which is to get home safe to the people who depend on you? Ask yourself that. For property damage, you can always write down their license plate number. Dash cam got a picture of their face. You can send all of that to your lawyer and then sue that person for reimbursement. That's how you handle property damage. So the next few slides we're almost done here, folks. The next few slides I'm not going to read these to you. You can read these. You know how to read. You're all college students. Just things to do and wear about bicycling, skateboarding, snowboarding or playing in the snow, swimming, boating, and I'm done. So thank you for your patience, and hopefully each one of you by now has thought of a favorite activity that you can try to go and shake a leg. Just get out there and be active, because it's going to be a homework question. You have heard enough from me to attempt the homework and the quiz, so good luck on that, and you will hear from me again next week.